Prosecutor Jessica Roth talking with us yesterday. Insights into when the hush money trial will come to a close. And then what? Our closers are with us right now. Our panel, Rick Davis of Stone Court Capital and Jeannie Shanzano, political science professor at Iona University. Great to have you both today, as always. Rick, we're told that this time next week we could be talking about a possible conviction. Now that we've gone through all of this and we've talked about what could and could not happen potentially, what will that mean for the race if that happens?
It's a good question. I don't think anybody's really prepared for it from an electoral point of view, right?
Yep.
I mean, this country has been watching this trial. It's been somewhat entertaining and sad at the same time. So I think that will galvanize people's attention and maybe their judgment. We've seen poll after poll tell us that a conviction brings a reduction in support for Donald Trump. There's no evidence that a conviction does anything good for him in the empirical data we've seen for 6 months. But then again, on the other side, what if he's not convicted? Does that actually help him? And I haven't seen a single poll that said, if Donald Trump is found innocent of this crime, are you more likely to support him? And that will be a big question in the next survey after this week.
Well, and the fact is, these may be the only crimes that we actually figure out if he's going to be acquitted or convicted of before the election, Jeannie, because all of the other trials are on hold. One of them here in Washington on hold because we're still awaiting a decision from the Supreme Court as to whether Donald Trump has presidential immunity in Jack Smith's 2020 election interference case. On the subject of the Supreme Court, of course, Washington has been abuzz today with reporting from the New York Times about Justice Samuel Alito outside his home in Alexandria in the immediate aftermath of January 6, 2021, flying an upside-down American flag, a Stop the Steal symbol. Dick Durbin, the senator, the chair of the Judiciary Committee, has called for his recusal. Are we likely to see that?
You know, I really hope so. This was just an astonishing piece of reporting out of the New York Times. The idea that one of the 9 people charged with interpreting the Constitution, really the final word on what the Constitution means, is taking an outwardly political stance by hanging a flag upside down on his house in the days after the January 6th insurrection is very, very disconcerting. I mean, this is something people in the judiciary don't do, particularly Supreme Court justices. And it just shows how outwardly political the institution has gotten, and it risks the legitimacy of the institution. So I was glad Dick Durbin called for his recusal. There's really no way to enforce that. And so, you know, the idea also that Justice Alito would say his wife did it and somehow he's walking in and out of his house and doesn't notice is perplexing and disturbing as well. So disturbing all around. And they have 2 January 6, 2020 election-related cases that they're deciding this term.
Well, throwing your wife under the bus is going around in Washington, Jeannie. Just ask Bob Menendez. But, Rick, nothing happens here, right? We went through this whole thing with Clarence Thomas. There'll be no recusal. There'll be no ethics, anything. The Supreme Court lives in its own world.
Yeah, I think Clarence Thomas's wife has been much more active in the Stop the Steal movement. And look at where that went. Yeah. So, look, it's another, you know, brick out of the facade of the Supreme Court that the public's going to say, wow, you know, these people just can't be trusted anymore. And second-guessing their decisions is not healthy for our democracy. So I think they need to really look inward and start thinking about their conduct and where they take this court.
Right, Rick Davis and Jeannie Shanzano, our closers. Wonderful political panel. Thank you so much. And of course, Joe, it's worth noting, Donald Trump will not be in court this weekend. He has the weekends off. He's going to go to Minnesota. Not technically a swing state, but the Trump campaign is saying it might be this time around.
Let me guess, it's a 50-state strategy. We haven't heard that in a while. We'll see how that goes.
And of course, whether it's 50-state strategy or anything else related to Washington, you can read about it in the Washington Edition newsletter, on the terminal, and online.
Thank you for joining us and for spending time with us throughout the day here on Bloomberg. It's Balance of Power, live from Washington. We'll see you back here next week on Bloomberg TV and Radio.